Guru Nation, welcome back to another maybe short. We're gonna try to keep it short. About CRC, Clinical Research Coordinator. We got Dr. Al Jazairli, we got Judy Galindo, we got Monica Paula Quitiva, the only one in the world with that name, and Dan Sfera. And yeah, we're gonna talk about CRC, common mistakes, common rookie mistakes. Maybe they are unavoidable. Maybe you have to go through the process, but if you're aware about them, maybe you can try to avoid them. So I guess that's what this topic's going to be. And Monica got this request from a CRC Academy student, I'm assuming.
Yes, this is for you, Lisa, and for everybody else out there that are becoming CRCs or starting your careers as CRC or starting your site, maybe. So um, I think one of the things that people keep on forgetting is reading their SOPs. So sometimes, for example, they don't read the SOPs for ICF, or they don't read the SOPs for IP storage. And those little things that we think we already know the how you say the essential part. Sometimes is different in between sites to sites when it comes to the process. So, for example, let's say in one site, it can be that the informed of consent process, besides doing all the essential part, is that in this site, the SOP is required the patient to put the initials and date in every single page. And then in another site is based probably is just initials, or then just the signatures. So it really depends on the site. And if you don't follow your site SOPs, and then in the case of any audit, guess what? You're gonna be in trouble.
That's a
So that
very
would be
common
my
one.
first, yeah.
Another one related to that is the ICF is probably like you can do all five with the ICF, but another one is like using the previous version of the informed consent, then not the new one. That's a huge one. That's a very bad protocol deviation, GCP violation. And then another one is like, and maybe this will go away with electronic consent, but most sites are still using paper consent. Is printing, like when it prints
Mhm.
and a page is missing, but nobody notices. So it's maybe 21 pages and page 14 might be missing. That's bad uh,
Mhm.
because it shows that you're not paying attention to. Obviously, if you skipping a page, you're not reading the consent properly to the patient. So those are two other ones related to that. What are some other ones, guys?
Mm, Well, I guess source documentation, writing down the procedures, things that happen during a visit, telephone call, any conversations, and you remember, or you had these conversations with the patients, but you didn't write it down. So then you're going back and you're like, oh no, I remember the patient telling me, but it's not in your documentation. So guess what?
If, yeah, exactly. So
For,
if you
for
didn't document it, if you didn't record it, it's
Mhm,
like it never happened.
exactly.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
for me as a physician for the CRC and my notes, okay, especially in oncology, whatever happening with a patient, if I documented in my notes, have to be on the files for the CRCs before when she submitted. Okay, when mainly when we report a AI and adverse effects and side effects of the medication and like this, it have to be also. Sometime the CRC will miss a couple of them, and monitor like Dan comes and see my notes something, and the record of the CRCs are CRCRs different. Then there is kind of discrepancy, and they have to pay attention for the thing where following the physician note and making sure that they write the right thing so it will match together.
Exactly.
Okay.
It happens all the time. And um, another thing I noticed related to that is when the patient sees the PI, the patient's usually going to tell the PI maybe some lesser significant AEs, right? They're gonna tell the PI, hey, I had a heartburn yesterday, but it went away. Well, that's adverse event. But because they're telling you this and you put in your note, they're not telling the coordinator. And then the coordinators sometimes don't have time to read your notes, right? They just put it in there. So then a CRA comes and says, hey, why you didn't put this as an AE? The PI, the patient told the PI they had a heartburn. There's a query. And uh, it goes even further if we can do another video for CRAs, because if CRAs are only looking at the AE log, that heartburn's not even going to make the log. It's not making the EDC. And so then now the CRA doesn't even know there's a AE because there's no log. So I guess for a coordinator, it's reading your PI notes, keeping the log so that you can make the monitor's job easier. Because if you make the monitor's job difficult, they're not going to like you for very long because their jobs are very stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing is drug accountability versus the diary. Sometimes that doesn't match. That's another huge
That's
one that you have
very
to.
good one.
Yeah, a lot of times patients will come in, they don't have a complete diary, whether it's paper or electronic, and then it doesn't match what they're returning or what you dispense, and you got to figure that whole story out.
And then you get angry CRA again, where they have to count the pills, and they say, "Why am I
Mhm.
counting 9 here? You put 3. What's
Mhm.
going on? Now I have to go count all of them because you don't know what you're doing. So now I'm gonna stay another day, or I'm gonna come again more frequently." And what happens when a CRA keep coming to the site? The site has to dedicate resources to the monitor and not to seeing patients. You're losing revenue. This can tie into our future PI Academy as well. Guys, it started as 5 topics. It's going to become 500 if we don't stop. But this is a good overview of why research is so complicated and why you need to learn this
Um,
stuff and educate yourself.
I would like to mention one more. And this is related to the protocol. So sometimes, and I think that's also happened often, the study coordinators don't review for example, the exclusionary, maybe if there is a drug involved in the exclusionary um, um,
Criteria.
criteria. Thank you. and then and then on top of that, we have the list of prohibited medications. Okay, so you have to make sure that you're reviewing both, and not just that, but not review. But if you're reviewing the drugs, you need to review if the drug is a brand name or if it's a generic, because sometimes no, obviously, always in the protocols, the name that are there mentioned there are the genetics. So you need to make sure if that maybe brand drug has that genetic compound, or or for example, if this protocol has a prohibited medication that also have a watch out period, you need to make sure to document the exact amount of time, so that way you're not making any mistakes when it comes to the randomization part.
Mhm.
So basically, everything's potential mistake, guys. Everything. So you need to be careful. It's like a landmine. So you gotta walk carefully, look, know where you're going. You have to know what's
Mhm.
going on. Have a map of the field, because there's landmines everywhere, and we're not dealing with theoretical things. We're dealing with patient safety, which is
Yeah,
very
exactly.
serious,
Mhm.
obviously.
Yeah. And like we always say to students, patient safety first. And then on top of that, if you have a question related to the study, especially if it's to the protocol, never ever assume, always
Yeah,
ask.
exactly. And
Exactly.
definitely,
That's the
yes,
best thing.
yes.
Never
Yeah.
assume.
Consult with your staff, your PI, your sub-Is. Don't be
Never
afraid to
assume.
ask them. Don't
Nothing.
be afraid to ask, because
It's a
sometimes a
patient
lot.
safety. Assumption can
Yes.
cause the patient a lot of
Yes.
a potential side effect that he doesn't need it to go through it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
Mhm. I
exactly.
agree. Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much. And this is important stuff. So hopefully pay attention, take some notes. Email Monica if you're interested in CRC Academy, or me. And I'll put links to everybody's LinkedIn's underneath here. Myself, Dr. Al, Judy, Monica. Start networking, guys. It's time to network. And catch you all later. Bye bye.